Hi. We're live.
Hi guys, nice to see you all again.
Good to see you all. Happy Monday. Like we're a little crooked here. So okay. How is everyone doing on this Monday? It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. I'm calling it Self-Love Day. Time to reflect inwardly on the beauty that exists inside and connecting with that. Today we're talking about voice. Voice. We're talking about voice, and this is a subject that I've always wanted to talk about because I've got a lot of flack around my voice my entire life. Jasenia has had a lot of flack around her voice her entire life. And I imagine that there are many of you out there who get a lot of flack about your voice and the uncomfortability of your voice, right? Like when we hear ourselves, it's so weird. When you hear yourself for the first time, you're like, what the? Who's talking? It feels really odd. So I wanted to talk about voice today and the power of voice, as well as the insecurities and hangups we have around our voice, why we have those insecurities and hangups. And now, like we're not here to give like expert advice and we're just here to share. We're just sharing our own process in loving our voices, and happy to share the wisdom that I've learned over the years as I've gotten and adjusted to my own voice.
I'm still getting there.
We got you this far though. She's doing lives.
Let me tell you, I'm doing lives, but I still have a hard time hearing my voice.
Yes.
I don't know why.
Yes. It's really interesting.
It's a process.
A
huge process.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So drop us some hearts. Hi, Frativa, look who's joined us. Thanks for dropping in. So I'm just letting you know, drop us some hearts and let us know how, where you are in your relationship with connecting to your voice. And what does voice mean to you? Pratiba, and I feel like you're really good, Pratiba, when it comes to sharing your voice and your expression, and really powerful. Yeah, she's like, I got a fucking powerful voice. Exactly, you do. Yeah, so I'd love if you wanted to share what voice means to you. It's a very powerful tool that we have, and our relationship to it helps to deepen our power. Yes. So Prativa says, voice means standing up and speaking up. I have no holding back with passion. I'm unapologetic. I love that. Yeah.
Yes.
That's the best word to have and to use when it comes to your own voice. I want to talk about this term called voice confrontation. That's what it means when you really cannot embrace your voice, when you have a really hard time getting comfortable with your voice. And one of the things is when hey, John.
Hi, John.
Hi. Let us know, John, what voice means to you. I would love to hear from you what voice means to you. So when it comes to our voice, so when we're talking to ourselves, how we hear our voice, it's, like we're hearing it through our inner, like all of the, the bones and like the muffledness of our skin and all of our cells and everything that's creates sort of this buffer that makes our tone sound richer and deeper. And so for me, I know when I'm like hearing my voice, I sound very deep to myself. And so for a long time, I used to talk a lot lighter. and so, right? I used to do that forever. And I have some friends point out to me, like, why you should talk in your like lower register. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm talking how I normally talk. No, you're not. You're talking like this. So Pratima said, I was told I'm shouting before, which made me temporarily self-conscious for 2 days.
For 2 days.
I totally get that after my speech, but then it's 50-50 because that can be sexist, as my friend said. Oh, Trent Shelton, others are proud and loud. Yes, he does say that. The world may not be used to women having one. Amen to that.
Exactly.
Women having a voice.
Yeah, we don't have
women having a voice.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so in talking in our authority and in the power of our voice, right? I have this coworker. She left us. I love her, Melanie. If you ever listen to this, she's awesome. But she's so. It's like, and she tells us ahead of time, like, you guys, when I get a call, like my voice changes. It's like it's just a mechanism that happens, and so it's like when it's like this customer service voice comes on, it's super chipper and happy and like really loud and it's like really high pitched and it's amazing. It's like who's over there? It's a totally different voice. And it's interesting how we play with our voice in these different kinds of ways. Thanks for joining us, Pratibha. I'm glad you joined us with this live. So yeah, like when it comes to voice, we can shift and change our voices in all of these different formats and who we're in front of.
Exactly, who we're in front of, because it has a lot to do, like your boss, right? Or somebody calls you over the phone or face to face with your friend or not your friend, dating or not dating. You know how it can change your voice. This is like so true.
Yes.
Yeah, and I remember, like one thing that got me self-conscious, I can remember now because it came to mind.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I probably was like 16, 17 years old. My mom, she used to sell Mary Kay, so she will get a lot of phone calls. Mm-hmm. So she will be like home, sometimes. So I answered the phone one time. It was when we had, the phones. Not the cell phones.
The phones.
The phones.
Stop dating yourself.
The phones. Hey, I don't care. No, so I answered the phone, and this lady say, "Hi, how are you?" I'm like, "Good." She's like, "Can you please let me talk to your mom? I know you're let me talk to your mom." And I said, "I'm her daughter." She's like, "Yeah, I know you're her daughter, but I need to talk to an adult. Can I talk to an adult?" And I said, "I'm like 16 years old. You can talk to me and I'll relay the message." And then the boys, because they tell me I have this baby voice all the time. And I'm like, oh, and then from then I will have to pretend like a little tougher little voice, like they can know that it's not a baby on the phone. It's somebody that has enough knowledge.
Assert yourself like an adult.
So yeah, that would it was hard for me, like so self-conscious.
Yes, yeah. When it comes to voice, like my entire life, so much of our voice is about our personality and who we are, and it's rooted in our ability to belong. Right? Exactly. It's the judgments that we carry about our voices are the judgments we learned from somebody else about what voice is appropriate, what tone is appropriate, what sound is appropriate, what clarity and enunciation. And I'm really good at enunciation.
Me.
And it's so annoying.
Oh my God.
And being judged because of that voice. Mm-hmm. And so it creates all these judgments that are centered around belonging or not having belonging. And so for me, growing up, I'm from Colorado, first and foremost. And let me tell you, when it comes to the population of Black people in Colorado, it's less than 2%. I think it was a little bit higher. Maybe it was closer to 4 would be my guess, because I swear there were more Black people here when I was growing up as a kid. But, I went to pretty much predominantly white schools. I grew up with a mother who intentionally made sure to put me in or offer me the best education. So I was often the one and only Black student in those schools. And I definitely got a lot of flack, right, for being Black. And then I don't have a whole lot of family here because I grew up in a family that was pretty separated. They were not very connected on my mother's side of the family, who live here in Colorado. And so this is the voice I grew up with my entire, this is who I became, based on my environment and my experiences. And it's really interesting that one time I was working in Dallas, Fort Worth. So I was a manager, and the company that I worked with ended up acquiring a couple of stores in Dallas, Fort Worth. So I was working in Dallas, Fort Worth for a few months at a time, and then I would come back to Colorado. And I remember, working with one of the cashiers on the new system and talking to them about like teaching or training them. And she just stared at me and was like, whoa. And I was like, what are you like? What's going on over there? Right. And she's just like, I just never heard a Black Valley girl before. And I was like, a Black Valley girl? Okay. All right. I'm not from California, but sure. I am from white bread Colorado. It's fine. But it was a trigger for me because of growing up my entire life getting all this flack of not sounding Black enough, right? But then I'm obviously not white and I don't pretend to be. I just am myself, right? And so there's just all this flack around voice if your voice doesn't sound a certain way, right? And all of that aligns with our gender.
Yeah.
Right? Based on your gender, you should talk softly and sweet, and it should be kind and more submissive in its tone, right? Fuck that shit. Yeah. Right? There's race, right? So how we think, and code switching and how we code switch and how our tones changes and all that. I mean, there's so many things, right?
So annoying.
It's so annoying.
Okay, so this is another thing that happened to me that I just remember. When I used to work, at a place, my boss, guess what she asked me? She's like, hey, I have a question for you. I'm like, sure, bring it on. What is your question? She said, if you try, can you lose your accent? I'm like, really? That's your question?
Don't even get me started.
I said, this is who I am, and I'm not pretending to be nobody else. This is my accent, and it will stay with me until I die. Because I came to USA when I was 14. So her perception was, you came here when you're 14. You shouldn't have any accent.
Hi, Stephanie.
No. That's me. This is me. And I'm going to die with this voice and this accent.
Yes.
It's not going to change.
It's not going to change.
Even if I try.
And here's the thing. How many come, how many people come from other countries, right? Yeah. You have an accent and who assimilate into Western culture to absolve that accent, right? Mm-hmm. And Pratibha, I think, could be a really good person to talk about this, and the fact that you're getting ready to go for speech pathology, really, and when it comes to working with language, right? It's how Western culture, all Westernized culture, requires people to completely assimilate, which means please lose the accent so I can understand what you say. Yeah. Can we maybe pay attention to what people say?
They're rude.
Can we maybe get comfortable with diversity when it comes to the way people speak and language? Why is it so uncomfortable for them, right? Mm-hmm. And it just comes down to this power over control, and I remember I did this on the Meant for More series. I talked with my friend Nat, who did her TED talk on how assimilation is colonization. It's just another form. It's modern day colonization, and how so much of that is in this whole can you speak more clearly? Can you speak English? Can you speak properly? And it's are you fucking kidding?
Yeah. I got so tired and
so ignorant
that I'm very humble and loving, but when you push me, I'm sorry. You're getting the Latina and it's coming out real quick.
Yes.
So I said, either you stop or I'll cuss you out in 2 languages.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Yeah.
Because yes, I speak 2 languages. You can get both.
Right.
So yeah, they're like, I didn't mean anything. Well, you are pushing it. So don't push it. I already said, this is me, this is who I am, and it will not change.
And how did that get in, like, how did that get in the way, like, those judgments, right, of you being able to...
Speak out. Do this, what I'm doing right now.
For the longest time, like, Justinia, we should do videos. Justinia, we should do this. Justinia.
I will tell, what would I tell you? Get me a speech.
Oh, yeah, she wanted us, someone
coach.
to speech coach so she could talk better. Whatever that means.
So I can have better pronunciation when it comes to English.
Right.
Until you're like, you know what? F this. Let's just do it.
Yes. So, I mean, and this is all the process of coming into your authentic voice, right? Like, I had to get comfortable with, this is how I talk. I get a lot of flack about it. People have a whole bunch of judgments about me and my voice and being a Black person and how I talk and whatever. And I say, fuck that. Like, fuck all of that. Like, it doesn't, this is who I am. Yeah. I'm the makeup and amalgamation of my environment, right? How I grew up. The tones and sounds around me. There's this conversation also about, talking white as a Black person and how that's about survival. And I'm not gonna knock that. I'm not gonna knock that per se, because there are ways which we code switch based upon race, because we live in a westernized like culture that requires us to assimilate all the time. But for me, it was never, I'm choosing to talk this way, to be this way, depending on where. It's like, this is who I am behind closed doors and out in public. It's who I am. And I think the difference is if you're being inauthentic about it because you're laying it on because of who you're standing in front of, versus actually being in the power of your voice and what your voice is. Our voice is a representation of our personality. It's who we are. It's our personal self-expression. It's how we show up and communicate in the world. It's how people connect to us. And it's the way that we know ourselves. And to try to compartmentalize our voices, or to minimize them or diminish them, or to change our authentic voice gets in our way of being able to show up as ourselves. It has a lot to do with our ability to be in the power of our full self-expression. Also connects us to, like, there's our prefrontal cortex, which is like where all this creativity and innovation lives, and problem solving and creative thinking, and being able to tap into all of that when we can move into our authenticity and on our authentic self-expression. We harness the connection to our creativity, to our innovation, to our ability to problem solve, to strategic thinking. Like, all of this is tied to our authentic self-expression. Yeah. And so the ways that we judge our voices, minimize our voices, diminish our voices, minimize and diminish the voices of others, judge other people's voices. It's like, the scariest thing to most people is public speaking, right? Like, you'd rather die than to get in front of people. Yeah. I know this well. I forever was so afraid to talk in front of people, right? A lot of that is because of the fear that we have around our voice, around our personality, around who we are. Why? Because of other people's judgments. Because those judgments mean that we don't belong, that we lose belonging, that we lose care, that we lose, like, love. Yeah. Right?
Our voice.
Yeah.
We don't give it power to our voices. So because people are saying this, you diminish who you are, and then you don't say what you are supposed to say.
Right.
With your voice, your power of voice.
Right.
So yeah, we often go along with what people's perceptions are of us, and we fall into that category that you shouldn't speak because that voice doesn't go with your personality or yourself.
Right.
Or you shouldn't speak because you came here, and now because you're here in the United States, you're supposed to sound and act like the people that live here.
Right.
When we know this is a free country and the whole world, we know this, and we should be ourselves no matter what. So,
Mhm.
so to get the power back, right, for our voices is what? It's really getting connected back to how you really sound, to accept that this is just who you are, and the people that are going to accept you, they're going to accept you with accent or no accent.
Right.
So that's what I will tell myself. So,
and I feel like the worst judgment out there is that if you have an accent or you don't talk white or you don't enunciate, whatever the fucking stupid criteria is, right? Is that you're dumb.
You're dumb.
You're not smart. You're not intelligent. You're not professional, right?
Yeah.
And this is, it's the same as like when I did this talk about my hair and how going natural had all this stigma around having natural hair and it being seen as unprofessional, not neat, unkept, messy, like whatever, right? It's like, this is my hair. Like this is my hair. This is what it does. This is my voice. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Thank you. I'm really coming to love and appreciate it.
I came back to
she used to straighten her hair all the time.
I used to straighten my hair because I will be like people
she's like 10 years older.
People like girls with hair straight and not curly.
Yeah.
Right? So I used to, for 5 years, I used to straighten my hair.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Until
I wish I could put up a picture.
No, don't put up. Well, I have some pictures actually on Facebook, so whoever is my friend that can see.
But yeah, it's like all of these judgments, right? That it's like, it's just not right. It's not enough. It's not good. It makes you less than, it makes you unworthy, it makes you unlovable, right? And that's really how we are internalizing it, is as being unlovable, right?
Yes.
When people deny us for being who we are, right? The way that people make their judgments, cast their judgments on who we are, that make us feel like we're not enough. And so much of that is around our voice. And that has a whole, they just try to box in our voices all the time, right? Our tone, how we need to sound, how we should talk, when we should talk. The list goes on and on and on.
Yeah. And I'm so glad I got my power back. I feel free.
Yes.
Because I don't have to pretend to be a person that I'm not. Or I don't have to hide myself, so I don't have to talk to that person because they think different about me just because I have an accent, right? Yeah. So now I'm like, I talk to whoever, and I'm more social now than I used to be before. And I just speak my mind. I speak whatever comes to mind. I speak it out, obviously, without, disrespecting anyone, because I don't like to be disrespected. So for that matter, I'll treat you the same way I want to be treated. But I do came to accept that I have an accent and that I'm not from this country, but I love this country, but I still have to be myself,
Exactly.
Yeah. So I just own it all.
Yeah, own it.
Yeah.
And what my question would be for you is, when you come across people who make comments or who are just ignorant about your voice, right? How do you handle that situation now? What do you do?
I just, what drives me insane, tell you the truth, is that because I have an accent, they think I'm dumb, right?
Yeah.
So they ask you questions when it comes to the work that I do or the job that I used to do before. And I will actually voice my opinion and be like, this is not how you're supposed to do it. And or they will ask me questions and I will answer just correctly. I will not get, like defensive in any mode, in any way, but I will just respond, for them to know and see that I am smart, that my accent doesn't mean my brain doesn't work.
Right.
So, I will be like,
how that equates to that. Just,
so I will fun. And I talk to my face. I I talk to my face, I cannot hide my face, and I will be cussing you out with my face. So I'm sorry, but this is how I will respond to them with my smart answers, but that face.
It's true. It's so
So
true.
yeah. No.
Yeah, it's about, so much of it can be about survival, what we do,
God, it was so hard.
and all the ways that we try to fit in or to not be diminished by those judgments, and how that keeps us held back,
Yeah, and then we hold it for so long, and you're like, how much time I wasted.
Yeah.
But it's because you really have to come back to connect to yourself.
But here's the thing about that time wasted part is really what you're hitting on is that it's a loss of fulfillment. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't get to be fulfilled in your own life because it's always trying to
show something else,
present some certain way or be a certain way. Like, what annoys me too is that when it comes to some certain accents are like, oh, they're just so sexy, so beautiful.
That's what I get now.
Whatever.
Like
it is a high accent.
Some guys is like, oh, that's sexy. And then in the back of my mind, is he missing me?
Right? It's that like, oh, it's so exotic and different.
Yeah, exotic. That's what I get.
Sexy and different.
From Peru. Oh my God, sexy.
Yeah, but then with that comes also attached this whole and also not being enough, right? Because your accent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really interesting, and yet we are at an international, world. We have over 7 billion people, almost 8 billion people on the planet, who talk in all sorts of different tones and sounds and languages and everything, and it's just really interesting the pious, superior, self-righteous nature of what voice is right and what voice isn't right. I don't even know what her name is, but there was when I was really afraid of doing this TED Talk, because I was facing the judgments that I had on my own voice. It was like, how the universe sends you just the right thing when you need, like we were talking about this earlier, when you're in your head about something and it's like social media on your newsfeed, something pops up, right? That's like the answer to help you, or a YouTube video comes up or something. So I was on Instagram and this woman pops up. She's a public speaker. I don't know her name is. She's I think based out of Australia. Her voice, when I'm not saying this to be for humor. It's you remember the little chipmunks with the Theo and
Alvin?
Yeah, Alvin, Theodore. They have that really high pitched voice, right? So cute. Anyways, her voice was like that. This older woman. And then I was because when you're on Instagram and you're scrolling, if you don't have the sound on, you don't hear anything. So I'm just watching her talk, and she looks super charismatic, and I'm like, what is she saying? So I turned off that voice. I was not prepared for. I wasn't prepared for it. And it was this moment where I was like, if you can sound like her, right, and be who she is, and also she didn't fit into dominant culture's idea of beauty either, Western beauty. She was curvy, an older woman, and she had a lot of charisma, and her voice was so high pitched, I couldn't believe it. And it was this moment where I was like, and she was talking about all these presentations and stuff she's given with large corporations and blah blah blah, and I was just like, if she can make a career out of public speaking, what is anybody's problem? Why do we get in our own way, right? If it's it literally has nothing to do, because of the judgments of our self-expression, it gets in the way of us showing up and doing the things that our heart and soul long to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it's when you're saying that, what gets in the way is the shame.
Yeah.
Shame gets in the way, pain gets in the way,
Trauma.
Trauma gets in the way.
Yeah.
And then there is your time, right? We all have our time to heal, our time to connect, our time to regain the power back to yourself, right? So I think that for that, it's like we all have our path that we have to heal, and then come back to your voice, come back to yourself.
Yeah.
And accepting that this is just what you have and what God gave you. So
yes.
Nothing else.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in that expression, I think one of the things I like to talk about is when it comes to sharing things that are uncomfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like so much of our voice is also how we no. Yeah, it's how we communicate our ideas, our beliefs, right? Our opinions. And I mean, especially where we're living in a world of cancel culture that's so real. And the fear of those judgments, the fear of being canceled, the fear of losing love and belonging, right?
Belonging, my God, that was my fear.
Yes. And what happens because of those judgments too has the opposite effect of creating these sects where this is only where you belong, right?
Exactly.
Like, and this is what I want to talk about, like where hate speech and all of that comes from, right? Because people, because of judgments, like you can't share. Like, I'd at least like for you to be authentic so I can know where you stand, right? Rather than you keeping it behind closed doors, and then you have this sect where this is only where you belong, which creates cesspools of toxicity that then create havoc and damage in society in ways because they're hidden and buried beneath the surface, right? Like so much of our voice is about allowing ourselves the expression, our true expression, to be able to share what we have, right? Like where we're sitting at, what our beliefs are, where our fears are. And I have a lot of differing opinions and beliefs, right? A lot of people, like, they're in agreement with a lot of people. They also are completely opposed for many others, And is that going to stop me from being able to share my truth? Should that stop me from being able to share my truth? No, right? And it's only in our ability to allow self-expression, like really treat it as sacred, that allows us to have and engage crucial, complex conversations, right? When someone is saying something that is like their opinion, but it's damaging and destructive, right? We can't know that that's happening if it stays beneath the surface because we don't allow self-expression, right?
And we get stuck when we don't allow it. We get stuck. You feel like you're in jail just because you want to pretend to be someone that you're not. So you're bringing all this circle of
or they
friends.
have to know all the information or knowledge or like the research before.
Yeah, and then you bring all these people, that you don't even connect with, just to pretend that you belong, But it's so freeing to just get out of the circle, show yourself, and be who you are, whether they like you or not.
Right.
I can breathe now, let me tell you.
It definitely feels better when you're fully expressed.
And cheers to that.
And cheers to that, yeah. Cheers to that. Mm-hmm. Acting in alignment with our authentic selves is the fastest way that we can connect to our creativity, to our ability to problem solve, to our innovation. We talk about we want to live in a world that we find innovative solutions, right, to today's problems. How is any of that going to happen if we damper authentic self-expression? It doesn't happen. How do we create innovative ideas and find different paths forward and, I don't know, witness or see other possibilities or potential out there when if fear is holding everyone back from being able to be fully expressed, right? It's, with one of the core, values of America being freedom of speech that continues to be infringed upon in ways that I'm amazed. I'm amazed how, I'm like, wow, interesting. This is our right. And it's constantly being minimized and destroyed. And it's interesting, but also not surprising in the ways that we are constantly policing how people should be, how they should talk, how they should act, what's right, what's appropriate, what's da da da. It's about authenticity. It's about what's real. It's about who people are, right? And we can't create, like, there's no creating genuine connection if we don't allow people the space to share where they're at, right? We don't, there's no door to open, right? There's no bridge to make. There's no bringing people along with. There's no helping to shift ideas again and to shift our perceptions of the world, right? In order to create the kind of impact that we want. If we're like policing people's voices,
and staying quiet.
Yeah. Out of fear.
Out of fear, yeah.
And for women, I love that Pratibha brought up this point about, with women not being allowed to have a voice. And that's in pretty much every culture for the most part, because we live in such a patriarchal society, right? And what we're uncovering as of late, or at least what I'm seeing, is that we're seeing more women as they move into seats of leadership. Gosh, like, we're finding creative, innovative solutions to today's problems. There's more collaboration. There's a sense of care. There feels like more community, more interconnectedness. There are, when I had this talk on the Meant for More series with my friend Mackenzie, she did a TEDx talk on, how women could love their guilty pleasure being their careers, right? Is that when women get into seats of power, those companies, they have more profits. They're more profitable, they're more efficient, they're more inclusive, there's a vibrant energy, right? This is what happens when we create a space where all voices can be, right? It's interesting to think of a massive amount of limitations that we've created through this suppression of people's voices, and in particular of women's voices. And it's just interesting to watch what is happening, or the shifts that are happening, as more women are stepping into their authentic voice and into their authentic power, right? The world that we're living in there's a healing that needs to take place, right? Around authenticity and how we think about creating space where people can show up whole. And that is very importantly in how we are empowered in our voices to share and exchange those ideas, especially that might help, lead change forward, and the kind of change that I think we all want. So when we diminish and minimize voices, it's like we're hindering our own process of evolving into something that could be so much richer and vibrant.
Yeah, because we're not what people think we are.
Right.
We are what we think we are, and what we know we are, and what we come to find out that this is the person that we are, and we accept it, and we love ourselves as we are.
Yeah.
Right? Flaws or no flaws. This voice or in this accent, yes. This is who you are, this is who I am, and this is who I'm going to accept.
Yeah.
Right? And love.
Right.
Because if I'm constantly speaking, but in my mind, then I won't be able to connect to my higher self and just, say what I want to say. It will just, I don't even know what I will be saying, but I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be me.
Yeah.
So I have to be on my authentic self in order to say what it comes from here.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So connection to your voice, connection to yourself, and being authentic is the most loving way of loving yourself.
And it's a path to fulfillment, reaching your full potential, contributing to the world, right? Being able to just walk the path, right, of your true self. And it's interesting because, with this mass awakening that people are talking about, it's interesting how we go through these cycles, but there's these larger conversations happening around wholeness, authenticity, love and belonging. Thank you, Brene Brown, for all the work that you've done around love and belonging, right? People like Gabor Mate talking about trauma.
I love
Thank God. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like this is about the path that we go to reaching our full potential and how we embrace and stop judging and minimizing, right? And how we release the shame that we're carrying because of those judgments around our voice and allow ourselves to stand in the power of our voice. That's how we move the world forward. That's how we live lives that feel more fulfilling. That's how we align to that purpose, the passions that we're carrying inside. So much of that is tied to our voice.
Yeah.
So I hope that this message and what we talked about today serves you, and I hope it empowers you into connecting with your own voice, exploring your voice, explore some questions around your voice, right? Like, what are the judgments you have around your voice? What are the ways that you get in your own way from sharing your truth or sharing your story, right?
Yeah. And hopefully this message too helps you see yourself in a different way.
Yeah.
Just to recognize that we are not what others think.
Yes.
To recognize that we all are different.
Yes.
And and if we accept ourselves and everyone as they are, how much loving world will this be,
And the world is desperate for authentic voices.
It's desperate for authentic self.
Yes.
Just be yourself.
Yes.
And just speak out.
Yes.
Say it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I'm creating a workshop, and I'll be sharing that in the upcoming months around how you can stand in the power of your voice. This is really important, impactful work, and how we share our authentic expression is necessary and needed in the world. It really is. So, yes, be with your voice, explore your voice, and challenge yourself in ways that you can share your voice.
Yeah.
If there's a project or something, there's something you want to write, there's something you want to speak, there's something, right? Like, how can you invite in?
Yeah, because for the longest, this has been calling me. It's been calling me for ever to just self-express and to say, message to the world and message to whoever is listening right now, to just help you see yourself that you're not the only one too that is going through this.
Yeah.
We are different, especially people that come from other countries. It's hard, but we can love ourselves and show people that they can respect us.
Exactly. All right. Have a great rest of your week, everyone.
Yes. Blessings.
We'll see you
safe
on the next episode of When It's Enough. If you like this content, be sure to follow and like us on here and on YouTube, where we stream live every week. And share this message with someone who needs it. If there's someone out there that is struggling with their voice and this can empower them, share it with them. This is... Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for joining us, and thanks for sharing this space. And let's create a world that's more open and empowered and loving of people's voices. I want to know what that world looks like. So have a good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye.